goodness, what calm and what peace that can bring, indeed, in the winds of trial.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing when you think about the idea, the creator of this universe. Because you go to Genesis chapter 1 and you find the Godhead explained, even in the first chapter. The Spirit of God is hovering over the waters, and God said, let there be light. And, you have all of that there. And this powerful God who all he had to do was just say the word to speak things in existence. Is someone, as Spurgeon said, is someone who can actually calm us, because when we know that the creator of the universe is one who basically has it all in his hands at this moment, and that hasn't changed.
And when you really consider, and just, I got to say this, but when you really, and I mean this, that Jesus himself is the one who created electricity. Now, we sometimes think about there's old Ben Franklin with his kite and the key and so forth, and discovering electricity. And of course, he didn't really discover it. But the point is, we kind of think about that. But Jesus discovered electricity. I mean, he truly is electric.
Yes, he is. He truly is. And by you saying electric, Steve, is there any era, any decade that, I don't know, you would say is the most beneficial decade known to mankind?
Oh, absolutely. It's the 1980s AD.
Yes.
Yeah, from January 1st, 1980 through December 31st, 1989.
Yes, exactly. And when you look back on those on that time, you have the big hair, you have the great sound, you have that metal melodic sound, by the way, folks, which is what this show is all about. And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Segway did it again. Steve did a great job doing another segue. Speaking of Electric Jesus, the film that is going to be coming out to be talking about Christian heavy metal and Christian rock from that era. With us here today is Chris White, the director and writer and producer of the film. Chris, welcome to the program. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. This is really a thrill to be with you guys. I've listened to the and I think you guys have such a easygoing, real way of talking about your faith that I really like. And you're also funny and entertaining. So it's like a morning drive time team, but also like some really smart, thoughtful guys. So I can think of no better way to talk about this movie, Electric Jesus. I love the transition, Steve. That was beautiful. It was a perfect transition.
Oh man, you bet, man. We appreciate having you on the show. Thanks for your time this
Yeah,
evening.
absolutely.
Yeah. And Chris, you said that exactly the way I wrote it, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and you're Venmoing me the $50, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, got it. Oh, good. There's the thing. I got it. Thank you.
Right. So Chris, can you give us some background? I guess it would, first of all, give us some background on yourself and how you got involved in filmmaking, and then we can move into some more specifics about this film that's coming up.
Yeah, well, so my wife and I are independent film producers, which all that means is we don't work for a Hollywood studio. We go out, we create. I wrote the script. Myself and my colleague Daniel Smith wrote the music, and Emily, my wife, and with a lot of help, figured out how to put the money together for this. So we basically grew a movie out of nothing, and now we're in the process of bringing that movie to the world. My background is in, I was a youth group kid in Columbia, South Carolina. Grew up in the '80s, the greatest decade in history, as you were saying earlier. And always interested in like drama, theater. My friends and used to be a Super 8 film camera, then it became a VHS video camera. But I'm just one of those guys that was interested in storytelling and that sort of thing, and studied acting, and then got into making commercials and that sort of thing. So now I'm in a position where I was able to put together a story about a bunch of kids in a Christian rock band in the summer of 1986. And it's a rock and roll movie. It's called Electric Jesus. And it's, my theory is that all the great band movies are about bands that break up. They're basically about what you learn, the things you take away from an experience that when it happens, it seems like it was a failure, but really it wasn't a failure. So that's, I think all my favorite rock and roll movies are about that. So that's what Electric Jesus is about, a band that didn't make it, probably like 100 other bands, but took some things away from the summer that still inspire and even haunt them to this day.
You know, Chris, when I was watching the clip of the movie, I got to tell you, I can relate to that sound guy. That sound man, that now I wasn't the sound man. I was actually a guitarist myself in a few different bands myself. But
Sure.
Man, talk about bringing back memories of an era that I grew up in. And I'm just curious, one of the thoughts is, at first glance, somebody may look at something like this before they watch it and say, oh, these guys are just making fun of an era. And there is some of that. I mean, there's definitely some fun in the movie, but how would you explain the purpose behind the movie?
Well, I think it's it's more of a love letter than anything else, to youth. The thing is, though, I don't think sentimentality does us any favors. I don't want to be too esoteric, but going back, unearned emotion is what sentimentality means. And I think unearned emotion is not good for reflection and learning and growth. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to just really honestly go back to the past and see if there was a way to redeem something in the past. Like something went wrong, something was bad, our main character, as you point out, is Eric, the sound man for this Christian band. And he's been hurting, he's had a wound for many decades since the summer of 1986, and he's processing this. And so I wanted to put a character on a journey that maybe in reflecting and looking back, instead of strict nostalgia or sentimentality, he kind of realizes some truths that he missed when he was back then. Now, I also think that we can only make fun of things we truly love. Like comedy that's making fun of something you hate, it's just mean. You know what I mean? Like if even we do it, if we hate, a certain kind of music or a certain musician, and we're riffing and joking about them, it's just kind of, it tends to be a little mean. But if you really love something, like I loved my, Southern Baptist Church youth group growing up. I loved the identity and the support and the things I found in Christian music in the 80s. So I'm able to, have fun with it, not make fun of it. I mean, we can laugh at the spandex pants and the big hair and the eyeliner and all this packaged in this biblical message. There's a lot of irony and just, kind of like, what, you show this to your kids now and they're like, wait, they dress like that and they did that. And it was like, they did that at church camp. It's like, yeah, just trust me, it made sense then,
Right.
So we can have fun with it, but I'm a big believer in you need to love the thing that if you're going to have fun with something, you need to love it first. And so I still do.
Absolutely. Although I would argue that the big hair and, especially that kind of stuff and the bright clothes and everything, that should never have gone away. We should actually still have that today.
I was just having that debate with my wife today, Steve. So, yeah, go ahead.
She wanted you to have big hair?
No, I don't think I should tell you exactly what side of the fence she was on, but go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
No, my question is, you and I have not actually met. Chris,
no.
Is that right? Can we say that to the audience? You and I have never actually met.
We have never met, but it seems like we would be friends if we met.
I was going to say, so how did you know to make a movie featuring my favorite band of all time, Stryper, and then, as if that weren't enough, to throw in references to other of my favorite bands and groups like Rick Kua and Les Band, and then there's even, and folks, you're going to get this if you're a certain age, there's a reference to Crockett and Tubbs from Miami Vice. How did you know to do that? No, in all seriousness, What made you focus, so especially on Stryper? Because they really open the show, and there's a focus on this band wanting to be able to open for Stryper, and
Yes,
main
right.
guy's got a lot of Stryper gear in his room, So why did you focus on that band?
Well, I think it's arguable that Amy Grant or Stryper, those are the biggest of the '80s, right? Or maybe the ones that even your non-Christian friends would know about. I think they were the biggest of the era. The thing is I just think Michael Sweet and Stryper, I mean, those songs are just delicious ear candy. Like, it's hard to find a Stryper song it couldn't be turned into any style of music just because it's great music. They're just great songs. So, and I think that was a key to a lot of their success. The other thing is they were just the people that broke out somehow, in that moment. When I was digging into this, I'm pulling out my old tapes and my old records and looking through, and then I'm starting to listen to, Stryper songs like, makes me want to sing, and I'm just like, this is a great song. Like, I miss this stuff. Like, it actually makes me want to sing. I've probably been listening to that for the past 30 years, but a lot of that stuff was just digging into the time. They tell writers, if you're going to write about what you know. So what I know is just, every album, every cassette that was at the Christian bookstore where I went and got, Christian music, and you could get one free with those 4 stickers, the stickers that would come on the tapes. And if you bought 4 in, you could get a free, like, I'm that geeky about it. So I just knew. And you're right, there's a scene where the kid, they ask him what kind of music he listens to, and he rattles off literally over 60 bands, just bam, 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 just casually mentioning all the bands he listens to. And we name check just about everybody worth name checking of the era.
So Chris, one of the thoughts I have when you're talking about a film like this, I'm excited about this film, first of all, because, you're definitely hitting the era of nostalgia with me. And I think that's going to be for several people, because, you watch it and you can, at least for the clip that I saw, you see the connections, you see the idea at times. Church kids were trying to look heavy metal-ish, and it didn't really jive the way they thought it did. And so you can see some of that in the movie, so I appreciate that. I guess one of the questions I have, usually after a movie, okay, it usually causes a reaction of some sort. Like, I remember if you go back to the Passion of the Christ, you would go in and there were like boxes of Kleenexes available for everybody afterwards, because they were expecting an emotional people to react emotionally to the scenes of the movie. What would you say to the listeners out there today? What can they expect from this movie?
Well, it's important to me that I as an artist, as a film artist, as a storyteller, that I give you some agency as an audience member to decide. Okay, I'm not going to hit you over the head with what I want you to think or what I want you to feel. Having said that, it is a structured piece of writing and filmmaking. Okay, so there is a journey that's happening. There's a story that's being told. I would like people that when eventually later in the year, or if you get to one of these film festivals in the fall and you actually see Electric Jesus, one, I'd like you to feel happy that maybe there's a part of your life that just exists in a movie. It's not something you may have ever imagined you would see on the screen, especially in a movie that stars Brian Baumgartner, who plays Kevin in The Office, or Judd Nelson, who was Bender in The Breakfast Club. You wouldn't expect that to even exist. So maybe that'll make you feel happy. The second thing is, I would want you to feel thrilled about the music and want to hear the music and listen to music. Our first song from the movie, an original song called Commando for Christ, is out on all the streaming services. So just, I'm telling you, look for the song, listen to the song. I think that will make you very happy, fans of that era. So the music is another thing. The film is filled with, needle drop songs from the era, just songs that you'll recognize. There's original songs in the style of that era. And maybe my favorite scene in the whole movie is just, this sounds crazy, but it really works. And I think it's like just an epic movie scene. it's just a bunch of friends lip syncing together to Stryper's song "To Hell with the Devil," and it's just something. It's like again, I shot the scene, made the scene, everything I would want something like that to be, but it's something I've never seen in a movie, where you just see the joy